I apologize if you've heard barking during today's show here on Undisputed. That's my little daughter, my little Maltese Hazel, who is watching the show downstairs here at our home with my wife, Ernestine. And Ernestine has told me that Hazel is really getting angry with Shannon today, and she just can't contain herself. So as she watches and Shannon raises his voice against me, Hazel barks at the TV, trying to get Shannon to calm down. So, Shannon, be warned, Hazel is on the warpath today over you.
That means I'm winning.
Let's see if
Anytime
Hazel can
starts
calm
barking,
down.
that's a win for me.
Yeah. Okay, that is a win. I agree. You won that one. So here we go. Let's see how Hazel responds to this one. I found these quotes from the GM of the Bills, Brandon Beane, to be very interesting if you really break them down. Here's what Brandon Beane said. The team to beat in the East is the Patriots. As long as Bill Belichick's there, you're talking about probably the greatest head coach of all time that was paired with the greatest quarterback of all time. So until we beat them, we've done nothing. And then Brandon Beane added that it's, quote-unquote, comical to write off the Patriots and Bill Belichick. So, Shannon Sharpe, I ask you, is it comically dangerous to ignore Bill Belichick at this point?
Absolutely. Because what Coach Belichick is all... Skip, if you look at what he's done in his tenure in New England, how many times do we think in his 20-year reign as the head coach, the Patriots had the best roster? Top to bottom, they had the best roster. Coach Belichick has a way of getting the maximum out of his players, especially when they come into the fold. Now, he's taking players that weren't very good at other places. We had no idea. Skip, I didn't even know Kyle Van. I didn't know who Kyle Van Noy was. But he gets there, and he turns him into a player. He goes and gets a big payday from Miami. Jamie Collins knew who he was. He goes to Cleveland, and he falls off a cliff. He comes back, and for the first part of the last year, he's in the Defensive Player of the Year running. Stephon Gilmore was good, but Stephon Gilmore wasn't what he is now. Skip, the thing that really good coaches can do is that they set the temperature, they set the gauge of how things are gonna be done and how we're gonna play. They call it playing to a standard. Coach Belichick has set the standard. It doesn't matter who comes, it doesn't matter who goes. We play how we play. And although Tom Brady is no longer there, and he's a great, historically transcendent great player, that doesn't change how they're going to play. Now, it might affect the outcome of how many games they actually win, but you play to the standard. And Miami and Buffalo have something what we call now, Skip, expectations. Nobody expected Buffalo to make the playoffs. Now we expect them to make the playoffs because they did it last year, and the quarterback has another year up on his belt. Nobody expect to see, especially Miami, after they started trading away all their best players, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Laramie Tunsil, they got rid of some of their players, and then they started out terrible, then all of a sudden, they beat Philly down the stretch, they beat New England down the stretch. So now they have expectations with all those draft picks. So, right, absolutely, the New England Patriots are still the beast of the AFC East.
So I'm going to reread part of this quote to you, Mr. Sharpe. And the part that caught my eye was, as long as Bill Belichick's there, you're talking about probably the greatest head coach of all time, that was paired with the greatest quarterback of all time. Well, all those players went from nowhere to everywhere in New England, in large part because they had the greatest quarterback ever. And now, the last time I checked, Tom Brady is wearing pewter, the color of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is no longer in Foxborough. There's no longer a security blanket for Bill Belichick to fall back on when he tyrannically treats his players the way no coach in the modern era could get away with treating players, but because Tom Brady was his buffer in the locker room, his strong leader, his all-time great leader, Bill could get away with any old cog. He could run players out of town, my way or the highway. and mix and match players in the offensive line or on defense or even at the skill spots and get away with it because he had the greatest quarterback of all time. Once you take that away, let alone they've lost 10 starters, including Tom Brady. And the last time I checked, Bill Belichick's done next to nothing in free agency. It's shocking how little he's done. The biggest move he made was to tag Joe Tooney. What are you? He's an offensive guard, and you tagged him. And so you kept Devin McCourty, not bad. That was 2 years at $23 million. You kept the great special teams player Matthew Slater. You added another very good special teams player in Adrian Phillips from the Chargers. I'll give you those, but they're special teams. So he signed Bo Allen, the immortal, and Damiere Byrd, the other immortal, as his two big free agency pickups outside of Brian Hoyer, who he brought back for the third time, and this is Brian's 10th NFL stop, I guess to either compete with Jarrett Stidham or maybe to start over him, maybe just to back him up. But Jeff Howe, who covers for The Athletic, and he's covered the Patriots for the last 11 years, he reported 2 days ago that the Patriots have shown no interest in Cam Newton or in acquiring Andy Dalton. So, Jeff Howe points out they don't have the salary cap space to go after either if they're going to command any kind of a contract, and Andy Dalton still has a year left on his contract. So the point is, it looks like, by all accounts, they're going forward with Jarrett Stidham in his second year, a guy who got yanked last year in a preseason game in favor of Tom having to go back in the game because Jarrett Stidham was so bad. And I've told you, I watched a lot of Jarrett Stidham at Baylor and at Auburn. And in the biggest games, in the brightest lights, I thought he went deer in headlights. I thought he lost some of his poise. He's athletic. He's got a nice arm. He ain't Tom Brady. And when you've lost that many starters and made that few of additions, and then you have some draft capital, you got the 23rd overall pick, and then you've got 3 3/3, 4 6, and 2 7s. But can you parlay them into a player of magnitude? Again, Mel Kiper originally had Jordan Love going to Belichick at number 23, and now Mel is saying, well, gee, he's starting to hear rumblings, as Todd McShay is, that Jordan Love will go way up. And Todd McShay has Jordan Love going at 6 to the L.A. Chargers. So, again, I'm saying on paper right now, as great as Bill Belichick is, he wanted the opportunity to prove that he could do it without Tom Brady. Well, this looks like a complete rebuild to me this year. And if he goes 8-8 with this roster, he should be the coach of the year, because I just can't see it. I don't get what's left here that would make you say that they're going to win the East, because I don't think this is an East-winning roster without Tom Brady.
Bill Belichick is what I'm going to say is the reason why they're going to win the AFC East. But let me ask you this, Skip. You said now that Coach Belichick doesn't have Tom Brady to bail him out. What about Tom and all those top 5 and top 10 defenses that he had the luxury of being propped up behind? What's he going to do now, Skip Bayless? What is he going to do now?
He is going to have the benefit of Todd Bowles as his defensive coordinator. And I think Todd Bowles might not quite be Belichick, but he's really good at what he does. And Shaq, what's that?
Skip, really? I mean, come on now. I understand that Coach Belichick might have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but his defensive expertise is unquestioned and should be unchallenged, unmatched, unrivaled by anybody past or present.
Okay, I got you. But Todd Bowles, I think, is underrated as a coordinator, and he's got the leading sacker in the league coming back in Shaq Barrett, and they have talent on defense. They re-signed Sue, and that defense got put in the worst field position, inherited field position of any team in the league last year, because Jameis threw 7 pick sixes to start with, but he turned it over 35 total times, which was the worst by 12 turnovers in the league. So the defense kept getting quick change, sudden change, thrown, and it wore them down and out. I think this defense is much better with Tom Brady than it would have been with, obviously going forward with Jameis Winston and his high turnover rate. So I think they're going to be just fine on defense.
Well, Coach Belichick says, what about my defense giving us great field position, and, Tom, you going 3 and out, and you're not doing anything? What are we going to do about that, Tom? What are we going to do about those pick sixes that you've been throwing? We're going to talk about that? Because you threw one. You're supposed to have 2 against Tennessee, and Logan dropped 1. But he got the last one. What are we going to do about that pick six that Eric Rowe picked off against Miami? What are we going to do about that, Skip? Because we were #1 in defense the entire season. #1. And what we got to show for it? The GOAT. You tell me, GOAT. What we got to show for that, Skip? If we don't score more than 7, if we give up more than 17, we lose. And we won 3 games in which you only scored 17. Beat the Cowboys, beat the Eagles. Stop it. Buffalo.
No, you stop it. Over the last 8 games of the year, go back and look it up. Belichick's defense fell off the cliff, starting with that Sunday night game at Lamar Jackson and ending with that home game against the rival Dolphins, who were starting to come to life, but they had them beaten thanks to Brady's, once again, 4th quarter comeback touchdown, what looked like game-winning drive, 3.5 minutes left, 24-20 Patriots, and Belichick's defense allowed Ryan Fitzpatrick to go 80 yards in 13 plays and not score a field goal, but have to score a touchdown to knock them out of the 2 seed. That was all-time pathetic, and Belichick, thanks in large part to you, gets a pass for that because nobody seemed to be watching that his all-time historically great defense had fallen off the cliff over the second half of the year. And I say good luck to you going forward with what's left of that defense.
Well, the defense might have fallen off a cliff the last half of the season. The only reason the offense didn't fall off a cliff because they didn't climb. There was nowhere for them to fall. So at least the defense was way up here, and they failed some. They still finished #1. Your offense never even got up on the mountain to fall.
My offense was last in the league in receiver separation. Yeah, they all stunk because they stunk. The talent around Brady stunk. So I think we still have a bet, don't we? Didn't we bet the other day? Yes, 5 cases of Diet Dew. Yes. I said Tampa Bay's record will be better than Belichick's record without Tom Brady. And I'm feeling okay about that right now. Would you like, I'll give you a chance right now. Would you like to back out of it?
No. Big N, big O. Good. That would be, put it like this, a hard no.
Okay, good. Well, then let's change the subject then and see if we can get a little more Diet Dew flowing, and that's the Breakfast of Champions, on this one, because Fox Bet says that the Dallas Cowboys are over under 9.5 wins. Oh, this is going to get hot when we debate this, and this will be next here on Undisputed.